Hi, this is Jordan Pickering at RNN Group. I'm here looking at the sequencing session of good feedback and what constitutes of it. So within the RNN Group, we have done a 4-week planning and development of teaching, learning and assessment, looking at some core areas. One of the sections that I was given was feedback. So it's just a bit of a video just to explain the content, hopefully so that you can access this for those 2 people that have been unable to attend any sessions so far. All right, so we started off the session with a pretty simple write down what good feedback looks, sounds like and feels like in relation for you as a tutor, for them as learners, what works, what doesn't work, what should it have, how should it feel, all those kinds of stuff. Now, one of the key things that came from a feels like perspective was it needs to be felt helpful, but not personal or attacking the individuals. So we spoke about that, but generally it said things like this. So good feedback is intended to support the development of progress of learners. It's there to help them achieve their identified learning goals or personal goals. Good feedback focuses on the students and they should have opportunities to work from that as well and work on those bits. But that's the key aspect as well. And what we needed to do is closing the gap between the student is and where the student needs to be as well. So we're talking about generally what good feedback looks like. Again, the slides will be in the classroom, which you'll be able to access if you want to read that further. But imagine if this is the case, the impact of great feedback. You enjoy giving feedback because you know it makes a difference. Learners ask for feedback. They need unprompted, as in they're unprompted. Just, have we got feedback? Can I have it? How am I getting on? Am I developing? Am I getting better? Learners grow, thrive, and respond to the feedback that you've given as well. Learners become independent, they become self-competent, motivated individuals that they like the element of, is it a test? You know, not looking at that aspect, you know, and rarely cry, is this a test? They like the challenge. They like to see where they're at. They've got a good growth mindset. They submit brilliant work and on time, and they produce high quality work that meets expectations first times. But some people might feel like that in relation to some of those comments, but ultimately that is the desired destination as to where we need our learning to be and where our feedback is as well. Okay, so this was week 4 of the sequencing sessions. So as we stated there, if feedback is universally recognised as our most powerful tool for improving students' performance, and we invest so much time in it, as tutors, how do we shift from feedback from being a simple report card on past performances to being a roadmap to help future successes moving forward? That is specific, actionable, fair, and efficient, and effectively delivered. So there was the breakdowns. Generally, it was looking about what good feedback is, how can we do it, how can we incorporate it, what's the simplest ways that we can do it. So one of the questions that you can have a bit of a think about is, there's 2 questions. I always give feedback and I always give feed forward. What people could do is they could rate themselves from 1 to 10, 1 to 5, and rate themselves if they always give feedback and they always give feed forward. And it was quite interesting, to be fair, because ultimately a lot of the people that's done this sat around about that 3 ballpark out of the numbers, so kind of in the middle. And then we got into conversations about, well, what constitutes as good feedback and good feed forward. This is the thing that we need to take into consideration, though, in relation to feedback and feed forward. These were some comments from what learners had made within this study. Success criteria describing the goals of assessment tasks are frequently difficult for learners to understand. Sometimes the criteria are not detailed enough, or I'm not really sure what it actually means in terms of doing this assignment. So I try and guess what teachers are looking for from what they have said in class. So that's the key element of it. So we're saying that we give good feedback and good feed forward, whereas around 70% of teachers stated that they give detailed feedback. Only half of their learners would agree. So as you can see there, sometimes their comments are not comprehensive enough. Once a teacher wrote, you need to elaborate more, but I had no idea what more I could say. So we've got to be really conscious of that feedback needs to be really clear and concise. What is effective feedback? There is a little video on there that you can watch, and it gives you the full details as to what that is.
Research has shown that giving
might be difficult to see that, but what we've got there is we've got the principles of great feedback. It's a cycle. You follow those guidelines, you should be able to cover all those criterias. But what we need to ensure is that we make feedback actionable, so it's things that people can work on. It's developed assessment competence as well. So ultimately, if we're trying to get them ready for their final endpoint assessment or any summative assessment as well, we can look into that. Learn from feedback that's given. That's core as well. As you can see, feedback provides impact. You've got things like succinct, so it follows a pattern, it's in right order, it makes sense. Avoid comparisons, and it fosters a growth mindset that people want to receive this feedback and they want to continue to keep developing and growing. Now, feedback is not these things. So good effort and well done, or good effort today, you've tried every question. It's not feedback. It's not detailed enough. It doesn't clearly say what they have done well on. It's not a score either. So 8 out of 10, brilliant. Level 3, fantastic. Again, scores are not feedback because it's open to interpretation what somebody's 8 out of 10 might be in compared to somebody else's 8 out of 10. Again, feedback is not instruction. You need to finish this paragraph. Can you think of 2 more examples? You're just asking them to do more work. And then the last bit as well is it's not random. Even though emoji pictures are nice and they've got the thumbs up and things like that, which is great, and you can put it on learners' work if you wish, we need to make sure that there is clear and concise feedback and feed forward. Okay, so we've looked at feedback loops, which is an activity where you're looking at a piece of work, we're deciding on what we'd grade a piece of work, what feedback would we give them in order to develop and improve that performance. There's a multitude of factors that we're taking into consideration when completing this feedback loop. What were the assessment criteria? What was the assignment? How did that impact the work that needed to be produced? Any opportunities for peer-on-peer support in relation to providing feedback as well. So there's multiple elements. But from a compliance aspect of it, these are the key things that we need to take into consideration, which is clarity. Feedback must be clear, unambiguous, and directly related to assessment criteria. Constructive, focus on what needs to be done to meet criteria, not what's just wrong. Delivered promptly to allow for actions, so we need to turn around any feedback quickly. Record keeping, it needs to ensure that it's important to keep all documentation and feedback of moderation in secure and safe places, and ensuring that we've got the fairness and consistency throughout. So again, once you get the opportunity to watch the video within this, it's about having to think about what can you try or change, what can you refine, make different or develop, and then there might be some aspects that you're doing that you might ditch moving forward. So it's just, again, having that reflective pause point to say whether you need to get rid of anything. Okay. And then where we left the class is we gave people an I5. So they had to write out what actions I'm going to take on the 5 fingers. And then they gave me the sheet at the end so I could have a look at it as well. And that was the session. There you go. All the resources, by the way, if you're wanting to have a look at any of the documentations, is on the last page as well. So they've got links to them which you can access. But fundamentally, feedback and feed forward needs to be clear, concise. It needs to clearly state what the learners have done well, what do they need to work on, what further depth could they offer. It needs to incorporate feed forward. So if there's elements that they could develop on and grow to support into their movement to next level. And again, remember that feedback is not instructions. It's not just random praise that says good or well done. It needs to explicitly say why it's good. And it's not emojis. Like I said, they are, even though they are nice, and you can put them on, that is not the that's not feedback. Okay, so all the recordings will be on the Google Classroom on the R&M way. You'll be able to access this, and there'll be some multiple choice questions that you can answer as well. Okay, yeah, until next time.